Welcome to the More You Know Real Estate YouTube channel. My name is Charlie Moore. I'm an investor, realtor, and now apparently also a YouTuber based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I want to jump right into the content for today's video, but before I do, go ahead and like and subscribe. That would mean the world to me. First of all, it means the world that you're actually watching. I don't know who actually watches these things, but if you are, it'd be a big help to me if you go ahead and like and subscribe, if I put a smile on your face today, if I give you any valuable information about real estate today. Like I said, we're going to get right into the content. You clicked on this, maybe because you have nothing better to do, but maybe because of the clickbaity title. That clickbaity title, I don't know what I'm going to title this video, but something like, I am losing money on this flip, or I know I'm going to lose money on this flip, or I bought a flip knowing that I wouldn't break even. There's some truth to that. I might break even on this deal. You lied. I didn't lie. It's called clickbait, people. I might make a few bucks, to be totally honest. I might break even. I think I'm going to lose a little bit of money. The big question is why? Why would I do that?
Well, why?
And honestly, I'm not sure if I did the right thing. So I'm going to give you the story of this deal. And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you why I did this deal. And then I want you to tell me if you think I made the right decision. You're not a professional, but here we are on the internet, and people feel the liberty and the comfort to speak on things that they don't know anything about.
I'm very important. I have many leather-bound books.
But maybe you are a house flipper. Maybe you are an investor. If that's you, go ahead. Let me know if you think I did the right thing. Let me know if you would have done this thing. We're going to see if we can figure this out together. I'm going to cover this story in 4 parts. First of all, the story of how I got the deal, the scope of work on the house, the numbers as I see them right now. And again, I'm right in the middle of this deal, so these could change when I make a final recap video. And then an explanation of, Charlie, why would you do this only to break even on this house? Why would you do this only to maybe even lose money on this house? So, first of all, the story. Here's the story of how I got this house. A few months ago, I'm talking to a neighbor. Lives right over there. I'm at my house right now. And I found out some really sad news that his neighbor, 2 houses down from me, right the other side of his house, had actually passed away. Now, I had never seen anybody in this house. It was very overgrown with shrubs. I didn't even know for certain that anyone lived there. But I was sad to hear that this person died. He gave me the number of the lady who died. He gave me the number of her daughter. And I called her just to say, like, hey, do you need, a gift certificate for groceries? Do you need us to bring you a meal? Whatever. Just very sorry for your loss type thing. She calls me back screaming and yelling, you vultures, you predators, you're trying to take my house from under my nose. I'm like, ma'am, I didn't even know who exactly lived there. I've never seen anyone in the house. I didn't know you lived there. If it's your house, by all means, if you can stay in it. But I guess she had already been getting a lot of mail from people, from investors trying to buy the house. So I obviously didn't want to upset her. She had just lost her mother. I backed away for a few months, didn't even think about it, right? Like just out of sight, out of mind. At some point, I saw them out there working on the well. The well had failed, and there was a well repair guy out there that I stopped and talked to. Nothing much. Again, didn't think of it for months. A couple of months ago, at the beginning of the summer, I see someone out there putting a for sale by owner sign in the yard. And of course I think, oh my goodness, I have to get an offer in on this. It's literally right down the street from my house. I don't live on a terribly trafficked road, so this might be a real gem that I could get off market. So I call the number right away. It's not the sister I had initially talked to. It's another sister. We start a conversation. We start a relationship. What followed in the next few months, I won't get into all the details because it was utterly crazy and ridiculous, but a swarm of investors descended on this place. I mean, I would sit on my front porch right out here and I'd watch car after car after car pull up. And this was a classic distressed seller situation, I came to find out. Everything from missing paperwork.
You put the envelope in your pocket?
Yeah,
All
no, maybe.
He said, she said, he was in the will, she wasn't in the will, legal issues, to back taxes that weren't paid, to a mortgage that wasn't paid, to memory issues. So-and-so said they had this paper. I mean, it just everything that could have gone wrong to get this house to where it did go wrong. And frankly, I felt horrible for the family. I mean, if you don't do real estate regularly, if you do real estate regularly, this was a confusing and complex deal to try to get closed. And this family was very overwhelmed. They've lost their mother. They're trying to offload this asset. And so I just offered myself as an advisor. I said, hey, I would love to buy the house. I might not be able to come up with the best offer. So just as a neighbor and a friend, if you guys need anything, if you want me to connect you to my closing attorney that I use so you can ask real estate related questions, whatever you guys need, I would love to be of service to you in any way that I can. And I just sat cool for a few weeks while investor after investor after investor came and lowballed them on this house. Now, this house was a hoarder house, so stuff up to the ceiling in some of the bedrooms. It smelled like smoke in there. There were lots of animals living in there. Again, classic distressed seller in every sense of the term. And I just sat back, waited and waited for offers to come in, and then I put my best foot forward. After, again, all the investors had gone in there, I offered them 300. They countered. I forget exactly what they countered at, but we settled at 305,000, and I got it under contract. Yay, got it under contract, right? Not really. Now the hard work started. Now we were dealing with a yours, mine, and ours situation. I would sit down for hours and make diagrams trying to do percentages of, wait, they took it in this type of ownership that does not have right of survivorship. So when he died, his interest went to his first wife's, and then a little bit to his second wife's kids, and then the kids he had with this woman, and then she came from another marriage, and then boom, and like just this cobweb of heirship issues. And frankly, my closing attorney wasn't super helpful. I tried to tell him the story, and he said, yeah, it should be no problem. We'll get this closed, no problem for you. He calls me weeks into the deal after I'm substantially in with some non-refundable money before we're closed, and he goes, yeah, there's no way this is going to close. This is totally messed up. Like, this is not happening. And he used much more colorful language than that. But he tells me, like, this is the jankiest deal I've ever seen. It's not going to close. Long story short, we call a grandfather who had inherited some rights from his son because someone had died in the middle there, and somehow this guy had gotten the rights. We got him to sign. We finally got it to the closing table. And again, I mean, every night I am getting calls from angry relatives thinking they should get more money. And I really put myself too much in the middle of the deal. Like, I didn't know how high tensions were. I didn't know how much family beef there was. And I was too much involved in the deal. Everyone felt way too comfortable calling me. And it got to the point where I was just like, listen, guys, I want to buy this house. I really want to help you. I think I've proven that I really want to help you. You have to stop calling me. Like, I can't help you. You guys decide who gets what percentage. Yeah, it was a mess. But we finally got to the closing table. And I have been renovating this house for almost exactly at a month, maybe a month and some change. So now we're going to talk about the scope. So that was the story of how I got the house. Kind of an interesting off-market, dealing with my neighbor. Very stressful. I mean, there were points where I was like, the guy was screaming at me in my front yard. And
boy, that escalated quickly.
my wife was like, I don't really want you going over there, especially, alone at night, to try to get him to sign papers. It was just sketchy all around. Number 2, the scope of work. What did I have to do in this house? Short answer, everything. From junk removal to a brand new electrical panel to new, everything from like big stuff like, $10,000 for HVAC to doorknobs and door stoppers. I mean, this was a complete reno, right? The size of the home is huge. It's about 2,500 square feet. I'm not exactly sure of the size because we're actually finishing off the basement right now, and I'm getting some different numbers back on exact square footage because it's a kind of weirdly shaped basement. But that was a huge part of the value out of this house, is I knew I could add some value through finishing off the basement. Wasn't it was just kind of like cinder block walls. The big thing in this house was the smoke smell. And when I say smoke smell, I mean like you can only spend a certain amount of time in there, like been smoked in for 50 years. I'm talking painting it and then like priming it and then painting it and then painting it and then being like, okay, is the smell gone? And then as soon as there's a day that's over 85 degrees and it's humid, it's like, oh, and the smoke smell is very much not gone. I mean, we ended up having to use some primer where I couldn't be in there for 2 days after this primer was used. The stuff was like borderline illegal. It was so strong. You couldn't breathe from the primer. Washed the whole house down with mildew remover, mold remover, TSP, trisodium phosphate. It was just absolutely, I mean, there were times, and still are times, where I'm like nervous, just because you sink so much money into a house, and then, it hits 100 degrees pretty regularly in Charlotte, and someone forgets to turn the air conditioning on, and boom, it just loosens up, and the moisture and smoke comes out. And so that was the biggest undertaking. I had to buy and borrow two, ozone machines, which kind of, I don't understand the science, but they split the atoms in the air. Huge scope of work, totaling about, between finishing the basement, replacing HVAC, replacing windows, painting, cosmetics, fixtures, flooring, everything, totaling somewhere in the $95,000 to $100,000 range. Redoing aspects of the outside, the exterior. So it was a massive scope of work. Number 3, the numbers. What are my numbers on this deal? My purchase price was $305,000. My reno was between 95 and 100, maybe even 92. I'm hoping. We'll see where some things come out. My holding cost, that's cost that I paid in origination points, and then costs that I'm paying to the lender throughout the time holding the property, are about $18,000 to $20,000. That's a lot. I don't want to be paying that much on every deal, but here I am. My resale costs are $14,000. That is paying the attorney on the back end, paying a buyer's agent's commission on the back end, and just some closing costs associated with selling any property. Thankfully, I'm not paying a seller's agent commission because I am a realtor and I can list my own properties. Now, this price, this house rather, is hard to put a price on for the ARV. If you're not familiar with real estate terminology, your ARV is your after repair value. So what you think the home is going to be valued at after the repairs are done. We live on a one-off residential street. There is a big apartment complex about a quarter mile that way through the woods, and there's an apartment complex about a quarter mile that way through the woods. And then there's a bunch of tire places and taco places and Bojangles and Chick-fil-A's and everything. It's all commercial around me. So I had to go out really far before I could find another residential house. Now, not only do I have to find another residential house when you're comping a property, but you have to find a similar residential house, right? It can't be one that was built 2 years ago. This house was built in the 50s, right? It can't be one that is all one story, right? Where this house is 2 stories. It has to be similar square footage. This house is all brick, and if you're comparing it to something with vinyl siding, that's kind of hard. And so to find a similar property took me into some very different neighborhoods, and frankly some better neighborhoods. That's how wide I had to go in my circumference in order to find a similar style property. And so now I'm looking at that ARV of a flipped house in another neighborhood 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. Frankly, like, you want to stay within half a mile. You want to stay next door, right, for your comp, for knowing what you can sell this house for. Again, common sense. If the house next door sold for X amount and it's the same floor plan and the same similar finishes, then I can tell you generally what I'm going to sell for. The wider you have to go out, the harder it is to know this stuff. And so I say all that to say I'm still a little up in the air on my ARV. I could see myself getting $455, $460 for this house. I could see myself getting $410, $415 for this house. It's just really hard to tell right now. So I'm putting myself right in that $440 range. I think my best comps are in the $460 range. However, again, they're in slightly better neighborhoods and they have slightly better houses on their street. And so I'm trying to subtract $20,000 to $30,000 for what I think my ARV will be. So my break-even cost is about $430 to $440. My resale cost is about $430 to $440. So this begs a big question. Number 4, we've covered our story, we've covered our scope of work, covered our numbers. Why the heck would you do this? This is a business.
But why?
Right, Charlie? And you seem to have run your numbers before you purchased the house, so it's not like you're just finding out that you're going to lose money or break even on this house. Why would you go through the headache and the hassle of renovating a house built in the 1950s, finishing off a basement, going through the inspections and all the headache, only to break even? Man, I am so glad you asked. This is a business, and I do need to make money, and I do need to be profitable.
I think all I got's like $450.
Okay, this is a business. This is not a charity.
And I think I made the right decision. And there are really two reasons there's three, but two of them are kind of related. Two reasons that I did this. The first reason is how darn close this is to my house. Subpoint, same reason, a new comp for my own personal house. So the layout of the house that I'm flipping is almost identical to my personal house. The square footage is a couple of hundred square feet smaller than my personal house. They're both long brick, mid-century modern ranches with hardwood floors and basements that walk out into a backyard, kind of built on a hill, right? So the it looks like a one-story, but because it's a slope, we have walkout basements. Totally almost identical floor plans. So common sense tells me if I ever want to go sell, if I ever want to go refinance, what is an appraiser going to look at? They're going to look at comps. What is the best comp for my house? That house. Whose house is bigger? Mine is. I am setting new comps. Also, just the proximity, again, closely related to the comps. I can walk there. I mean, I would guess it takes me 45 seconds to walk there, maybe a minute and a half. I don't know. It's right down the street. I just love that. I have managed properties 45 minutes away. So the fact that this is 45 seconds away is just huge for me. So again, this begs another question. Are you seriously going to do a $100,000 renovation and break even only to set the comps for your own house and to have something to renovate that's close to your house? And the answer to that is, of course not.
No, 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 no!
I'm not a moron, right? I need to put bread on the table at the end of the month. If I break even, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't put bread on the table. So I need to put bread on the table. I need to make money. I bought this land. Ooh, little Freudian slip there. I bought this house because I knew that I could subdivide over a half-acre piece of land from it. I looked on the GIS, the Geographic Information System. It's the tax assessor system for your county, and I scoped it out with the measurement tool, and I looked at the zoning code in the unified, the zoning ordinance in the Unified Development Ordinance, and I said, I think I can subdivide this land. Now, I worked for a custom home builder for a year as their land acquisition manager. So I'm able to do this stuff pretty quickly. I've got these bookmarked on my computer. Boom. What's the zoning? The zoning is R3. Okay. What do I need road frontage? Oh, I've got that road frontage. What do I need in overall area? Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. This is a subdividable lot. Now, finding a subdividable lot, or finding a lot that's flat and buildable that can connect to city water and city sewer in Charlotte, North Carolina, is about like finding a unicorn.
Is that...
What do you think it is? Twilight Sparkle come to life.
There just aren't that many of them anymore. I bought maybe 200 pieces of land, 150 to 200 pieces of land in my year at this custom home builder. I probably bought 4 or 5 pieces of land in the city of Charlotte specifically. It was all in suburb markets or in smaller cities outside of Charlotte. So when I saw this, I knew that on the conservative end, this piece of land would be worth $70,000. And that if I had it graded, I had it cleared, I paid for the tap fees, I could probably turn and flip this land for $120,000. That is how rare land is in Charlotte. So that is why I did this deal. I did it because it's going to set new comps for my own personal house, and even if I break even, I have $70,000 to $120,000 of profit sitting in this lot. Now you still have to, pay a realtor fee and different fees associated with if I was going to sell that lot, so it wouldn't be all that, and then you get taxed short-term capital gains tax. So I'd only be walking away with maybe $60,000 or something if I flipped the lot, which is why I'm trying to build on the lot. So I've already had it graded. It was really cool watching the guy come in, take down some really big trees on this lot. I've already had it graded. I've already had it subdivided. Even before I closed on the house, some people think this is unwise to have sunk cost in a deal. But even before I closed on the house, I had the surveyor out there because I'm like, I want to get this done because I know the subdivision process takes a very long time. And so I did get it done. I got the lot subdivided. The lot is graded, it's cleared, permits are pulled, tap fees are paid, and hopefully I'm going upright with about a 2,400 square foot brand new construction home on my street. Again, helping my home value, helping the overall neighborhood. Who knows? I might move into this house. We'll see. That house is going to cost me about $275,000 to build, and then it will sell for anywhere between $395 to $425. So I'll build it for $275. I'll have holding costs associated with that. I'll do a whole video on that build. But yeah, off-market seller, distressed seller situation, classic. Everything that could have gone wrong with this house had gone wrong. I inherited it. Scope of work is massive, tune of $100,000. Why would I do this? Because it's so close to my house, because it will set my comps, and because I was able to subdivide a piece of land from this property. And last thing I'll say, I told the sellers straight up what I was going to do. I was like, I can't pay $305,000 for this house. I could give you about $250,000 for this house if it didn't have the land. I'm essentially paying for the land and then fixing up the house so as to break even. Because I think if I would have put that house that I inherited back on the market, like I said, I would have only gotten $260,000 and I paid $305,000 for the house. And so I would have lost a lot of money. And so by putting $100,000 into it, I'm raising the value of the house, I'm breaking even, and then I'm sitting on a piece of land. Who knows? Maybe I'll even make some money on the flip, and it'll be a win-win-win. So far, the flip's been rather stressful. Anytime you're dealing with $100,000 scope of work, things don't go as planned. Things change. Work orders change all the time. But I'm doing my dead level best. Again, I'm sorry these videos are so long. I think we're in the over 20 minute mark at this point. But thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. If you need a realtor in Charlotte, hit me up. I'll post my email address up here. If you need an investor to talk to bounce ideas off of, I was poured into by a lot of people in my first few deals, and I would love to talk with you. Hit me up. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. This is The More You Know. I'm out for now, and I'll see you on next video.